We gotta do better. This is our day. When black and white come together. What it do? It makes great. It makes great. It makes great. It makes great. We gotta do better. This is our day. When black and white come together. What it do? It makes great. It makes great. It makes great. It makes great. Between the job layoffs, the guns sprayed off, the cops paid off. It's like a job not to rob, I need a day off. Who's delusional? Poverty's institutional. This is how it sounds. If Boys in the Hood was a musical, we broke but we beautiful. Step outside your cubicle. It's breaking news to you, for us as usual. Shooting killings and funerals, babies with empty tummies. Go to sleep but they don't dream, they too hungry. Nothing moves when it's trapped but the money. Though the conscience is convicted, it's either that or get evicted. Like it's losing or it's losing. Can't judge me for my decisions. See, we war torn, PTSD. The war zone is ghettos of America. Fifth war to born home. It's not a black versus white thing. It's a wrong versus right thing. Step inside my shoes, I bet it's frightening. It's not a black versus white thing. It's a wrong versus right thing. Step inside my shoes, I bet it's frightening. Freddie Gray. This is our day. When black and white come together. What it do? It makes great. It makes great. It makes great. It makes great. We gotta do better. This is our day. Black and white come together.
Little baby, come here. I think it's time we had a talk. You know, you're my granddaughter, and I'm worried about you. There's some things that you need to know. You know, with these old eyes, they done seen many things. Mobile, Alabama, 1872. You know, tomorrow will be my 97th birthday.
Granddad, I know your birthday.
Of course you do. Now the question is, did you get me a present?
I was gonna get one today. It's gonna be a surprise.
I'm sure it will be.
I gotta go, Granddad. You're gonna be all right?
Shoot, I made it this far, ain't I? Still here, breathing, but I want to talk with you. I see you're struggling nowadays. Your head seems to be in the clouds, full of anger. Maybe from questions that you need answers to. I don't know. I do know that I've seen my share of pain in this world, and they don't need no more. Tell me, have you been hearing anything about change?
I hear a lot of things. People are always talking about Martin Luther King Jr., Malcolm X, Black Panthers. Everybody's talking about how things have changed. I mean, I want to be a part of it, but I don't know.
Well, I think there's some things that you need to know and understand. People dedicated their lives, their entire lives for change to be made. Might not even happen in their own lifetime, but they stick it out. Even back when some of us folk couldn't read or write, we put God on our side and had faith in us. Even slaves made it on the way for change.
For real?
Would I lie to you? Women like Sojourner Truth, Harriet Tubman, even help other people make their way to freedom.
Sojourner Truth, is that her name? That's her real name?
Yeah, she made it her real name. When I heard of the journey she made from slavery to appointed counselor to the freed people at Arlington Heights, Virginia, I couldn't believe it. But I just knew it was all the truth.
And she was a slave?
Yep, sure was. And once she was free, she dedicated the rest of her life to traveling the nation, giving speeches, and fighting for change. Some say she was 105 years old when she died, but no one can really be certain.
Man, she fought forever. I don't even know anybody that old, except you.
Now you better watch yourself. All my good years are still ahead of me.
I hear you, but for real, I don't know anybody that determined. Like, to give up their whole life making a change, you really have to be dedicated.
Yeah, I'm not really sure about these so-called fighters of this new generation. But in my day, we had us a Booker T. Washington and the W.E.B. Du Bois.
W.E. who?
W.E.B. Du Bois and Booker T. Washington. Yeah, them was my idols. But boy, they knew how to agree with each other. Booker founded the Tuskegee Institute and delivered an Atlanta Compromise speech that would set W.E.B. Du Bois off.
They didn't like each other.
Well, they had them some differences. Booker T, all he wanted was colored folk working hard, getting skills, and leaving those political powers alone while we lived peaceful under the white man. But W.E.B. Du Bois believed in civil equality, things like right to vote and higher education. When the NAACP was founded, it was beautiful. Blacks and whites working together to end segregation and fight against discrimination.
Blacks and whites together?
Sure was, all listening and learning from the great debate.
Mr. Du Bois, we meet again.
Yes, once again, although I feel certain there's nothing new to say.
Ah, there's always something to share with a man as educated and refined as yourself. I'm always eager to hear some new, unfounded thoughts on how best to educate the black man. You are forever reading and writing about that.
I speak and write about what I believe to be the best way forward for the people of our race. You disagree by doing so. You sell the black man far too short. The Negro is considered a zero by the American people, and our only hero is knowledge. For without college, we will always remain unequal. Slavery doesn't need to be the sequel. It needs to be ended. What's the use of getting paid for a trade if the white man can't dictate how you spend it? Can you comprehend it? Education is the only way for elevation. You want separation? Why not political representation? Your method is slavery replication. For years, we've proved that the Negro is good with his hands, but damn, isn't it time we change his reputation?
You claim that knowledge is the hero of black civilization. Well, while you focus on the political change and seek educational gain, the cops is handling the unemployed citations. We get nowhere from these prestigious colleges if when the degrees they sought would only earn them a janitor's position. You use pen and paper to put in handiwork, while I use tools and shovels to put in yard work. A born slave, and yet you're not understanding the condition. You see, slavery isn't a movie script of the sequel, something that you depict. Nah, it's more of a complex phenomenon where blacks don't eat like they're on Ramadan. You see, brother, it's just a lot of smoke blowing drama, what it seems to be. It's pretty vivid that your vision and what it seems to be. When industries will pay you good just for a bending knee. Instead, you keep your head in them books and you're reading like 10 a week.
Correction. I don't complete 10 books in a week. I complete 10 books in a weekend. I study and educate the mind so I could understand the complex words the white man's speaking. But what good is it if you know how to make a boat from scratch, but you ain't got no home to sleep in? The Negro must be a self-starter. You want us to work harder? Why not smarter? But higher learning equals higher earnings. What sword does more damage? The one that's dull or the one that's sharper?
Correction, black man. There's nothing wrong with the 10 books you're completing on the weekend. Where the issue lies is in the thoughts of you getting an education and taking the white man's job in this Jim Crow era. To then realize that was just your thoughts jumping off the deep end. You see, brother, we agree on many things. Basic skills, policy reforms, though not so much has changed. The South still reflects statistics showing many hangs, and yet you insist education gets as many gains? Nonsense. How could you fix your lips with speaking your antics? Your strategy's bad, yet you insist on teaching them rampant. We all know what we all need to know. Don't need no books to teach and reach an advantage. Don't need education for understanding they're only speaking semantics.
Okay. You'll build, they'll break. You rebuild, they'll take. You work like a slave, get paid just so you could eventually take all that you made. No wonder why they support your trades. Who do you think you are? You think that by being able to work in a white man's car that you'll be able to drive the Negro far? You're a spokesman for the white man. Take that Negro, isolate him, and work him, and keep us ignorant. Can't you see we don't know won't ever hurt them?
Much respect. But sir, higher learning doesn't equal higher earning. For what's a destination with no car? What's the point of having seeds with no yard? Wouldn't you agree? It's sort of like a black man having a degree with no job. You see, it doesn't matter whose sword is duller or sharper. Instead of consolidating views and opinions, you continue to throw shade and crack jokes. And you still feel the need to attack me with your most recent essay entitled, The Souls of Black Folk. My Atlanta Compromise speech spoke of the economic and independent woes, whereas I emphasized the political and social equality were less important as an immediate goals. Young man, my philosophy was indeed the accommodation to white oppression. But if we start from the bottom up and control the industrial market, it would eventually lead to white regression. You seem to be especially ecstatic with the methods to your madness. To think you'll earn degrees and start stepping with the masses? Nonsense. All this ambition you pitch has got me pissed. Why don't you take a trade in that ambition to get you rich?
And with that, let's agree to disagree.
That goes to show that there may be a difference in ideas and in thoughts and on what's achievable and how for the black man. Even these two great minds, these two great men saw their paths differently.
Granddad, you think not being able to agree on things is why we haven't gotten far?
Well, it's hard to say for sure, but we gotta open up to a lot of different ideas.
What if they're both wrong? What if the only way for us to achieve anything is taking it by any means?
Baby, hush up that nonsense. Standing up ain't always the key. Don't you know one of the most calmest acts resulted in one of the biggest changes for us folk?
Yeah, like what?
Didn't I say standing up ain't always the key? Rosa Parks ain't stand up, and look what she accomplished.
She got arrested.
I told your mama not to let you sleep all close to that heater thing. It done fried your brain. Yeah, she got arrested, and it sparked a boycott of buses in Montgomery. Colored folk use all 18 cab companies they own and transported each other around the towns. And in August 1955, she met Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. and walked the last lap to Selma, Montgomery, and marched right alongside him.
Selma to Montgomery?
Long walk. Took days. There were even nonviolent protests that was white supporters. Through it all, changes were made, and blacks no longer had to give up their seats to a standing white person on the bus. Shoot, had she been paying attention, probably would have never happened.
What do you mean?
Said if she realized that the driver of the bus was the same bus driver that kicked her off before she never got on, one slip and she helped make the world that much better.
I'm tired. Lord knows I'm tired. Tired of remembering the days my mama wept and cried because she wasn't prepared for a child such as I. Tired of cotton picking from can to can't. See, we finished at sundown when we started at sunrise. Lord knows I'm tired. Tired of whites and colored signs. Tired of the black men that die because of a white lie. Like the false rapes the whites claim they survived. And I'm tired of blacks with diplomas that still can't get hired. In 1933, I was 20 when I got mine. And a job what was required was so hard to find. I'm tired. Tired of segregation causing separation and the unchoosing of sides. Tired of the blacks that come back still intact from the war and their uniform is deprived. Of course, their respect is deprived. I'm tired of the right for colors to vote being denied. I tell you, I'm tired. Tired of the rules only blacks have to follow on the buses we ride. Like getting up front, paying our fares, and then exiting because the door at the rear is how we get inside. Tired of the images of men hanging in my mind. Tired of the inequality of justice for my mankind. I'm tired of the upset from the threats on my line. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't tired. And it's deeper than the things I described. See, I'm tired of giving in. And it's this tiredness that should rise within every proud citizen. Because the color of our skin is what shows us. I guess the only question is, would I have still been Rosa if I rose up?
Granddad, I know about the peaceful protests. Like, I heard about them. But people get violent sometimes. You have to get violent back.
Don't you speak to me about no violence. You know how that always turn out? The same way every time. You know, your granddad once told me all about John Brown and Frederick Douglass. Said that John Brown frightened the South and shocked the North. He was anti-slavery, crazy and white, but color folk loved him. One day he decided it was time to free the slaves by force.
What'd he do?
I'm trying to tell you. In 1859, he and 18 men, 5 was his own children, went down to Virginia, spot called Harper's Ferry, took over the government armory, guns and all. Very next day, the Marines came back, took John Brown, and killed 10 of his men. Folk knew he'd hang for it, and sure enough, he did.
Was Fedrick Douglass caught with him?
Fedrick wasn't caught. Didn't even go with him. He kept his strong tradition of nonviolence. He was a slave born and raised, but refused to be held captive physically or mentally. You see, he freed himself and went up to the north, took advantage of his ability to read and write, ended up writing books and giving speeches. Spoke so good, colored folk wondered if he was ever really a slave. He spoke out, not only for human rights, but for the rights of women. He became a government official and a minister of his country, Haiti. Not once did he take a violent approach or anything close. Although his friends, he, John Brown, drew cards from a different deck, I wonder how that conversation would have happened.
Sir Douglas, we meet again, my friend.
Ah, Mr. Brown, how have you been?
All right, I suppose.
I know how it goes, but listen here. I've heard a lot from Kansas. There's much fear.
Yeah? Is that what you hear? Fear? You'll be amazed to know my troops are not afraid. We bask and bathe in the open. We speak for our cause because God is on our side when we set this plan in high motion.
My good man, on angel wings you ride. Your spirit is strong. I honor you. Your devotion is powerful, but your sacrifice may be wrong.
The Lord is watching and docking our choice and option. We'll go off the deep end for what we believe in, even if it's toxic.
What if you fail?
Then we'll let how we fight for it prevail. Those who want liberty are not prepared to die for it. My family's at my side showing loyalty, even when it's not time for it.
How is your life and wife after your daughter died? She is still young and full of pride, but suffered so much during this time. It must be a struggle to survive in the physical and the mind. Surely her grief is deep and wide.
Our struggles are our struggles. No matter how grand or subtle, we share only with our Father. Why bother laying on others our troubles? The seeds of our mission have been sown and the planted struggle has tired our souls. But I cannot complain in vain because it compares not at all to the black man's pain.
You need not tell me. My own hands have never dealt, but felt the cause of America's shame. I ask you then, now again as your friend, someone who cares to think clear despite the injustice of slavery, the way horror and torture are neighboring.
I am not afraid.
And I admire your bravery. Take it from me. Our duty still lies with those who are near us. In Kansas, you did not falter, nor did it bother when you turned your sons into killers. I too am determined to seek freedom from my people and a better way to treat them as equal. But endangering my child is a path I can't lead to.
Now my sons are well trained in combat and brains. They fight for freedom for those who cannot their own obtain. Our battles are always in their sight. On any given night, they're prepared to go to Harper's Ferry and strike. They act alone and they move without pressure, Fedrick. They believe and trust in the Lord because there's no one better. Our efforts at the arsenal will not cause death, but will bring on revolt with the hopes of the best for what comes next.
John, I have known you for so long. Your heart is so large, your zeal so strong. I trust your motivation and I believe in your spirit. But there's complication because you lack ammunition, guns, and the people to bear it.
That's why I ask you to join us. Your presence gives us validation. You get praise from many slaves. They see you as our salvation.
This is not the way I plan to proceed because this here is an unwinnable. Keep a free mind because in these times, it's our impulse we need to subdue. See, caution is required. A coffin is a reminder to take time to review.
Face it, too much time has been wasted. I want this so bad I could taste it and chase it with bittersweet revenge. This misery ends with my plan, and if you think I'll change that, perhaps you know nothing of who I am. Like a man of the cloth, I'm trying to preach about a better day. Food for thought, fill up your plate. Let us pray, see. I relate to the black man because I feel like a slave, or for lack of a better word, society's prey. I go against what they're against. I'm a visionary. How's the pigment of your skin like a dictionary? Defining people while my suntan is temporary. On a journey to shed light like a missionary. First name John. Last name slave code. If it's love, then come and take this pain from us. My mirrored image people probably sit back and wonder why my heart's on my sleeve when it's time to hang a brother. The first time I seen him, beat him, embarrassing him, used a shovel, had me thinking that demons were buried in him. I was stuck, froze. I was like 11 years old, ready to turn the oven on because everywhere was so cold. Lawrence, Kansas, that was free soil. Fruits of our labor, they gonna give them to us spoiled. None of them are judges, but they still judging. If God is above us, all we need is Douglas. Let's make a plan, hit up Potawatomi, make a stand, or Harper's Ferry, where we'll gather a fellow man. I'ma take the chains off till they take the chains off. Something I'll die for and never take a day off. That's something you can let my enemies know. Some say saint, some say a hero. I run with the slaves, and if you don't like it, you could beat me in my legs till the swelling makes my knee grow. I guess I'm living for the odds. You ain't gotta check the mail. I'm the messenger of God. Without a family tree, you'll never know what you came for. So you could bring me there and let me get my hang on.
I understand you all too well, John. I appreciate your powerful drive to see the Black man free. There is no part of me that can support the violence you propose. You must understand who I am. I started off somewhere in 1817 as Fedrick Augustus Washington Bailey. I need you to open your ears and your mind to what I went through on a daily. See, I was separated from my mother as an infant. The 5 times I saw her before the age of 13 felt nothing but a distant. Rumor said that my slave master's blood is in me. My mother didn't give it up willingly. And I'm the one that should be hung from a tree. See, when my mother died, I didn't even cry. Not one emotion moved inside. As a slave, lashes could come from out of nowhere. You was wrong no matter what. It all depended on master's mood. If for no apparent reason, he just wanted to F you up. I often sang to drown away the sorrows of being a slave, every day hoping and praying not to end up in the grave. As a boy, I was kept naked often, no jacket, no trousers, no shoes. But what was worse than that was watching the way that my little sister got bruised. Baltimore was never the new place I moved to. It was happy as ever because my old master was brutal. It was crucial. My new master's wife, she taught me how to read. She loved me. She treated me like a human being. She wanted me to succeed. He told her not to teach me. He dreaded what I desired. But what he loved most, I hated. And bearing that I was reading filled him with fury's fire. He really, really didn't want me to read. Little did he know his hatred for me inspired me. He thought that I hid. But guess what I did? I went and befriended the white kids. I would take my bread and feed the white kids, and in return, they would feed me nothing but knowledge. 2 white guys that I helped with work advised me that I should run away. Before that, I never thought I'd see that day. They told me I was a fine young fellow. On the inside, I was jumping for joy, but on the outside, I made sure to stay mellow. The next thing I wanted to do was learn how to write. I had to do a little trickery. I needed my education to be tight. I thought that my master would change once he started going to church. He even tried to quote the Bible verse at me. His soul must have been in a lurch. He tried to use the Bible's good word for evil. Then he tried to play tricks with my mind, but his game was seen through. My friend Sandy gave me a good luck charm. It was supposed to keep Master from hitting me. It was a piece of root. I later told Sandy, my fist worked better. Master was lucky I didn't own a pair of boots. He never put his hands on me again. I gained his respect, but still there was no well wishes in the end. One day I was teaching slaves how to read their religions. Slave master started hitting us with sticks. Nothing can stop me from educating my fellow brother, not even 10,000 whips. So I began my Sabbath school teaching slaves to read the Bible. We grew mentally and became closer, so I guess you'd say we became tribal. Our first attempt to escape ended before we were able to run. They locked us up, threw us up against the wall. They even threatened Henry with a gun. Once I got out of jail, I had to fall back. This time I refocused and I planned a mental attack. I worked very, very hard, and I gave Master most of my money, knowing that my second attempt to escape was coming. And in order for me to be successful, I had to let him think everything is sweet as honey. Once I got away, I married my wife, and I was happy. There was no more having to look over my shoulder for, hey, you there, nappy. This is just a snippet of what I've been through. In 1838, I changed my last name to Douglas, 2 S's, the man you just listened to.
I respect you, but I could wait no longer. Our plans are in place and we will move on without you.
May you find peace, my friend.
Yeah, Fedrick was strong on women's rights as well. And that reminds me.
Oh my God, it's a miracle. Granddad, you remember.
Well, ain't you just as surprised as me? Just make sure you remember the reason why I'm kicking your tail after I get my present. Now, how could I forget? There was another great fighter who was also born a slave, and she was a hero to all of us, and still is.
Who?
There was a brave woman named Harriet Tubman.
The Underground Railroad?
Oh, that's right. Remember Frederick Douglass? You see, she helped him escape. She served in the war and helped many. I mean, many folk escaped slavery. She was powerful, and as firm and strong and as the tracks of the train that they ran on.
All aboard! Now rest assured, the price of our freedom is a fee we can all afford. For it makes no sense charging cents, because if those dogs catch a scent, you'll be captured and sent back to the lash of a master. And I'm pretty sure you would rather be a slave no more than beg for sympathy as the pain drains your energy. Because being beaten, you're dead, you can't take. Instead, just look ahead where you step. For slaves, I want the best. And for that, I almost met death when I was hit in the head with a lead weight, a mistake. But that wasn't the case when Frederick Douglass escaped in 1938. When John became my husband, I took the name Tubman, and the name Araminta was erased. Then I escaped in 49. Returned a year later for my niece and a few others. John wouldn't leave. And in 52, Uncle Tubman was published. And in 58, I looked John Brown in his eyes and saw a man that was willing to die. I helped Charles Knowles rescue and addressed an annual women's rights meeting in Boston the year Lincoln was elected. I served as a wartime spy, scout, nurse, and cook. But for me, these paths weren't accepted. I needed more, indeed. So I sought a different way. In 1863, about 2 were freed during the Combahee River Raid. Then John was killed. It took me 2 years to move on. I married Nelson Davis, and in 95, received pension for the widow of a Civil War. I addressed the first meeting of the National Association of Colored Women in DC. Now you tell me who you think I fight for. Are you sure? All aboard! We'll be leaving now. The road ahead might look dark, but don't worry about being caught, because this railroad goes underground. No fear, no sound.
I would have got aboard.
Yeah, me too. Probably wouldn't have had much of a choice. You see, she was known to carry a gun.
I thought you was all against violence.
I am. And she wasn't violent. Never had to use it. Just kept it for assurance, that's all. You see, baby, listen to me. Whatever path you journey down, for what you believe in, promise me that you won't take up violence.
I won't.
Promise me.
I promise.
Good. Because when you're violent, you don't just hurt your enemies, but you also hurt the people that care about you. And God forbid you get killed. Just taking a loved one from your loved ones, only thing you can be then is missed.
But today we listen to people who had different views. They both make sense. I heard them argue their points all the time. We all do.
If it isn't Martin Luther King Jr., it's a pleasure to finally meet you.
The pleasure is all mine. I saw you sitting in the Civil Rights Bill hearing. I am curious as to your take on what was discussed.
An integrated cup of coffee isn't sufficient for 400 years of slave labor, Martin. When we are walking and singing, we shall overcome in the 20th century, the government has only continued to fail us.
I don't want to continue to reflect on the evil deeds of the past. Let us focus on the present situation.
Civil rights? Huh? That's the present situation. We worked these lands, obeyed their laws, paid our taxes, and defended America in every war. And we're fighting for civil rights? What about our human rights? For years, we've been looked at as jungle savages, cannibals, and the very least uncivilized people.
We have to keep fighting, even if we only move at a horse and buggy speed. It is time for integration.
Why in the hell do you want to integrate with a group of people who see your blackness as a badge of degradation and shame? We need to separate.
Why should we copy white America's worst habits? God created us all as equal, so you can stop with your hatred and violent speeches.
You claim I'm teaching hatred? Since when has history become hatred, my brother? These are facts. You are busy loving a man whose chief purpose in life is to humiliate you.
Advocating violence only sets us back. How could 10% of Negroes with no access to weapons wage a successful violent war? We are sorely outnumbered. When it is all said and done, we will continue to face unchanged conditions. The non-violent approach has the power to change an enemy into a friend.
Your non-violence is compared to Novocaine that's used to deaden a tooth before it's pulled. The patient feels numb as if nothing's happening. All the while, blood is running down their jaws. Your message is simply saying, don't stop suffering, just suffer silently.
You are always speaking loudly, but do nothing. You are not known to carry a gun. You are not known to have done physical harm to anyone. You are just a hot-headed radical, encouraging others to violence.
And you're a man of peace. How is it you have a Nobel Peace Prize and the war's not over? I am here to tell you it's impossible for a general to be at peace when his people are still at war.
Well, let me tell you what's wrong with your violence. Violence may murder the murderer, but it doesn't stop murder. Violence may murder the liar, but it doesn't stop the lie. It doesn't even establish the truth. It only increases hate. This is the weakness of your violence.
Your words have no effect on me. I know who's the enemy, which you fail to see. For years, blacks have been raped, beaten, and
Black, white, we're all the same according to my Bible. God is in us all, therefore we all have value.
Why do you keep defending white people? You're so brainwashed. Don't you see these white-only signs? They are not describing an adjective. They describe a complexion.
I know it all too well. When I was but 6 years old, I went to play with my two friends, Tom and Billy. Their mother said I cannot play with them because I am colored and they are white. What does color have to do with friendship?
A whole lot more. No people have their history and culture taken away from them like we have. We've been brainwashed.
Brainwashed?
Yes, we love our enemy, but we hate our own selves. We're like a watchdog who doesn't get credit for being intelligent. We just get credit for being well-trained. Nonviolence is disarming us of our God-given rights, our moral rights.
Question. Why do you keep stirring the pot with your rhetoric?
This sociological dynamite needs no stirring. It stems from unemployment, bad housing, injustice. Martin, our parents would have been put to death for even advocating for integration. We need to separate.
There is no solution for the Negro through isolation. Whites have marched up and down many nameless streets, sat in jail cells and suffered abuse and brutality the same as we have.
The same as we have? We have prayed more than any people on earth and are worse off.
There is nothing wrong with Black affirmation and empowering Negroes. If we protest courageously and with dignity and love, when the history books are written, people will say, there lived a generation of Black people who had the moral courage to stand up for their rights.
The only way for Black people to get that courage is to know their true history of all the bravery, courage, and brilliance that came before them.
Of course, my brother.
So you've been listening. Good for you. What are you thinking now?
They all had so much respect for each other. Even when they disagreed, they didn't get angry. They tried to understand.
You really are paying attention. We, all of us, no matter what color, are nothing without respect. Listen up. When Booker T died, it was W.E.B. Du Bois who spoke at his funeral. He let everybody know that they argued a lot, but that they honored all that Booker T stood for. Listen up.
I am blessed to have come in contact with the most distinguished man, white or Black, that has come out of the South since the Civil War. And although he has died, we can all look with pride and feel comfort in knowing that he's on angel's wings as he soars. He was homegrown, but his fame was internationally known for his influence was far-reaching. Born to a master, but developed masterful teachings. At times, he was food and famine, rain and drought. And of the good he's done, there can be no doubt. He directed the Negro's technical education and economic development. Intelligent, but on the other hand, he was a flawed man. And many of his ideas for his great plan lacked relevance. There's no mistaking his mistakes, and believe me, there was a lot of it. He never adequately grasped the growing bond between industry and politics. He was losing in areas he thought that he was gaining, for he did not understand the deeper foundation of human training. And his bias for a better understanding between whites and blacks was purely founded on class. A misguided man. But what's past is the past. We must lay on the grace of Booker T. Washington. Our gratitude, our thankfulness for his help. He brought the Negro land and property established Tuskegee. The love that he spread was undoubtedly felt. Through industrial education, he compelled the white South to at least think of the Negro as a possible man. But on the other hand, in stern justice, he's responsible for the decline of the Negro college and public schools, and why there's a firmer establishment of color class in this land. You know, what's done is done. This is not the time for blame nor complaint. Now, come on, Du Bois. Show some restraint. With bowed heads, let us mourn the dead. Through reflection, we'll see that Booker T. Washington, without question, indeed gave us his best. And what more could you ask of a person? What more could a person give? A great man has died, but because of him, many more shall live. May you rest in eternally blissful Booker T. Washington. My friend, the world will forever miss you.
Wow, Granddad, our people been through a lot. I can only imagine what's yet to come. I don't know what it is, but whatever it is, I'll be prepared to take the right way with the right people.
I hope so. If all these great historical figures were here today, they would probably create something better than Black Wall Street in Tulsa, Oklahoma. It was a thriving city built by Black folk.
I know all about Black Wall Street. What happened to it? What happened to it, Grandpa? What could we build today?
Something beautiful. If everybody were to put their cross swords together, wherever it ends up, it will be called Freedom Street. Glory, glory, hallelujah.